Welcome back. Today we are making Detroit style pizza vegan, which just so happens to be my personal favorite kind of pizza, so I am really excited. If you're not familiar with it, you might think that it's a Sicilian style pizza, which I actually thought for a long time that it was just a type of Sicilian pizza because it's rectangular and it has kind of a thick crust. But Detroit style pizza is a little bit different. It's got the cheese going all the way to the edges. So the cheese actually melts up against the edge of the pan and creates a crispy, crunchy, cheesy edge, which is absolutely delicious. The cheese in a Detroit style pizza is very often underneath the sauce, which just so happens to help when you have a vegan cheese. It actually helps it to melt a little bit better. So as it is, the pizza sauce and the crust are already vegan, so really all we need to do is use a vegan cheese. I've tested out several vegan cheeses with this pizza. I really recommend using the Miyoko's vegan mozzarella, but of course, if you have a favorite cheese that you want to use on this pizza, go ahead. And if you want to follow along with the recipe on my website, I will put a link in the description below, so look for that. Before we get started, I just want to mention that you are going to need a 10 by 14 inch Detroit style pizza pan, which is a very specific kind of pan. So this is the one I have. If you want to pick this one up, I'll leave a link in the description below where you can find this exact one. Alright, so let's get started on the dough. I have my stand mixer here with the paddle attachment, and I am going to add 350 grams of flour, half a tablespoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of instant dry yeast. It's really important that you use instant dry yeast and not active dry yeast. Looks like this. If you use active dry yeast in this recipe, it will not work because active dry yeast needs to be heated. So please don't use that. Your dough will not rise. Make sure the one you have is instant yeast. So I'm just going to stir the flour in the mixer on the lowest speed. Then I'm going to mix a cup of water with a teaspoon of maple syrup in my measuring cup. And I'm just going to add that in and let it keep mixing until it comes together. Now I'm going to switch to the dough hook and add in half a teaspoon of olive oil and keep on stirring that on the lowest speed for about a minute. Then you want to turn off the mixer and let the dough rest for 10 minutes. So while my dough is resting, I am going to put some olive oil on the pan. You really want to make sure you get a nice thick coat so that the pizza comes out easily when it's time to take it out of the pan. So the dough's been resting for about 10 minutes, so now I'm going to turn the stand mixer on to still a low speed, probably the second or third speed, and let it knead for about 5 minutes. If you don't have a mixer and you're kneading by hand, you're going to want to knead it a little bit longer for about 10-15 minutes. Now we're going to shape the dough into a ball and put it into the oiled pan. I'm going to cover it with some plastic wrap, but I'm also going to put some oil on the plastic wrap so that when the dough rises, it doesn't stick. So now I'm just going to set it aside until it's doubled in size, which should take about 2 hours. In the meantime, let's get started on the sauce. I am going to start by adding some whole peeled tomatoes from a 28-ounce can to my blender, along with a tablespoon of tomato paste, a tablespoon of maple syrup, 1 teaspoon each of garlic powder, onion powder, and salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And I'm going to start blending it on a low speed, and then once the chunks are broken up, then I'll turn it up to liquefy until it's smooth. So over on the stove, I've got some olive oil heating up in a medium saucepan. I'm going to add 4 cloves of minced garlic to that, along with half a tablespoon of basil, half a tablespoon of oregano, half a teaspoon of thyme, and a 1/4 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes. Feel free to leave the pepper flakes out if you don't want any spice in your sauce. And I'm just going to cook it until it's fragrant. It should take about 30 seconds. Then I'm going to add the tomato sauce in from the blender. I want the sauce to come to a slow boil, and I'm going to let it cook for about 30 minutes until it's reduced down to about 2 cups. You don't have to stir it constantly, but you should stir it occasionally. Just make sure things don't dry out, especially at the bottom. My dough is now ready. I'm gonna preheat my oven to 500 degrees, and then I'm going to stretch out the dough so that it reaches the edges of the pan. I'm gonna oil my fingers first so that I don't tear the dough. You wanna be really careful not to do that. And you wanna make sure that the dough is equally thick throughout. You don't want the edges to be thicker than the middle. Everything should be pretty flat. If you can't get the dough to reach the edges, let it rest for 10 minutes and try again. Now I'm gonna cover the dough again and let it rise for another 20 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm gonna take my Miyoko's vegan mozz and stick it in the freezer for the same 20 minutes. That's just to harden it up so that I'll be able to grate it later on. All right, so my dough has risen again and my mozzarella is cold. So what I'm gonna do next is I am going to go ahead and grate the mozzarella. I'm gonna do it directly over the dough because it tends to clump and stick together, but if I do it over the dough, I can kind of move it exactly where I want it, so it's less likely to clump up. You wanna make sure you get the cheese all the way out to the edges so you can get that nice crispy cheesy crust. Now I'm gonna take 1 cup of my sauce. I'm not gonna use all the sauce, save it for the next pizza. I'm gonna pour it in lines. I'm not gonna spread it over the whole top of the pizza. You can if you want, but I'm gonna pour it into some lines and then spread it out with the back of a spoon. So that's it. I'm just gonna put it in the oven for about 13 to 14 minutes till everything's cooked through and the cheese is all nice and melty. So let's put it in. So the pizza's out of the oven. The next thing I need to do is transfer it from this pan onto my cutting board. So to do that, I'm gonna use a metal spatula to kind of scrape down and release the edges. This pan is meant to withstand the metal spatula, but if you're using a different pan, please check to make sure before you destroy your pan with a metal spatula. I'm just gonna go around the edges here and release the cheese from the sides. If you use a different cheese other than Miyoko's, I have found that some of them are a little bit harder to get out than the Miyoko's. That's one of the reasons that, aside from the taste, that's one of the reasons that I like the Miyoko's better. All right, so I think my pizza is ready to come out. I'm just gonna grab the second spatula here and I'm gonna lift it up by both sides and then transfer it over to the cutting board. There we go. So I've sprinkled a little bit of torn basil on the pizza and all I have to do now is just cut it up. Oh, this looks so good. So that's it, your pizza is ready to enjoy. Oh my God. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to leave a comment if you made this or if you have any questions about how to make it. And also don't forget to subscribe if you want some more epic vegan recipes. Oh my God. That's why I can't lose weight.